Clara held her phone with a trembling hand. On the screen, a short message from Miguel. "I'm sorry. I couldn't wait." Outside, children were crying. Inside the clinic, her name echoed in another voice. "Dr. Alvarez, emergency." She swallowed the tears, tied her hair back, slipped the phone into her pocket, and walked in. A baby was fighting to breathe. She was fighting to stay on her feet. How does a woman survive when she loses love, and still needs to save lives? And what happens when the one who promised to wait is the first to leave? When love doesn't scream, doesn't fight, doesn't disappear all at once, just drifts away until it becomes silence? How do we hold on to what we feel when even the name they call us no longer belongs to us? This story begins with two white coats hanging side by side. They were the same size, but one always came stained with coffee, and the other smelled like a hospital. Clara met Miguel in med school. He was quiet. She talked too much. They met in the back row of an anatomy class and got closer like people learning a new language through silences, inside jokes, and the repeated gestures of everyday life. They started sharing textbooks, then meals, then life. Clara was always the type who dreamed far, and from the start spoke of her desire to help where no one else wanted to go. Miguel listened in silence, with admiration and fear. He knew she'd leave one day. He just didn't know when. She spent years preparing. Studied languages, sent letters, spent sleepless nights reviewing applications. Until one day, in a simple email, she got the approval. An entire year on a humanitarian medical mission. An old dream, finally real. Miguel smiled with tearful eyes, said he was proud, that she was made for this. But a week later, he surprised her with a request. He took her to the ocean, a place they had never been together, and whispered, voice trembling, "If you're crossing the world, then take my name with you." She said yes. They got married at the courthouse on a random Tuesday. No party, no announcements, just a thin ring, a borrowed dress, and promises whispered into ears, as if said slowly to last longer. At the airport, he adjusted the scarf around her neck and whispered, "Go. A year is nothing for those who love." She believed him. She left with a light suitcase, a full heart, and a temporary badge in her pocket with the new name she'd now carry, Dr. Clara Alvarez. And in that moment, it felt beautiful. It felt strong. It felt like love. Life in the mission was anything but light. Clara woke before the sun, washed her face in a basin of cold water, tied her hair in the dark, and pulled on the coat over a body still tired from the last shift. In the village, the health post was small. Outside, mothers waited with children in their arms, some having walked hours under the sun. There, time wasn't measured in minutes. It was measured in heartbeats, in fevers, in survival. Clara treated children with severe infections, elderly women with old aches, men in silence, afraid to feel. Even on days her body begged for rest, she kept going. Because there, giving up wasn't an option. In time, she learned to smile with her eyes, to use gestures as language. She received necklaces made of seeds, long hugs, and met a child who only slept when her hand touched his forehead. At night, she wrote it all down in a wrinkled notebook and sent long voice messages to Miguel. She told him about the day's cases, the strange foods, the fear and the beauty. Sent photos of the sunrise, of the campfire at the dorm, and always ended with, "Only 8 more months to go, my love." In the beginning, he replied with excitement. Sent videos of her sleeping on their couch, talked about his research, his plans. He was counting the days, too. But slowly, the rhythm changed. Videos turned into messages, messages into emojis. And then, silence. By month 4, Clara noticed Miguel no longer called her my love, just Clara. It was subtle, but in love, small things cut deep. Calls started getting postponed, then shortened. She spoke with longing. He replied with sleep. In his texts, he stopped asking how she was sleeping, or if she was still writing dreams in the notebook he had given her. Stopped sending photos of his day, or commenting on the ones she sent. Been swamped lately. Sorry I didn't reply yesterday. It's been crazy here. Clara tried to understand, tried not to pressure him. She sent voice notes with a tired smile, told sweet stories, shared details, tried to stay close. But on the other side, there was only echo. In month 6, the call came. She thought it was to ease the longing. Got dressed, lit a candle, smiled before the screen even lit up. But Miguel looked different, eyes down, voice drained of color. Clara, I tried. I really did. But for me, I can't anymore. She didn't respond, didn't cry, just stared at the screen while the forest sounds outside merged with the noise inside her, the sound of something collapsing, without falling all the way. It was on a humid afternoon, between 2 appointments, that Clara received the end. The call with Miguel had ended minutes before, but the words were still echoing inside her like a slow tide. For me, I can't anymore. She sat still, on the edge of the exam table, feet touching the concrete floor, her coat damp with sweat. A nurse rushed in. Doctor, emergency. Clara slipped the phone into her pocket without looking, tied her hair with the pen on her lap, and walked into the room like stepping into another life. The patient was a small boy, breathless, his mother shaking, time racing, oxygen low. Clara did what she always did, fast, focused, fully present. But inside, a part of her was gasping too. She finished the procedure with trembling hands, washed her face in the back sink, and only then let a tear fall. Just one, quick, silent. It was all she could allow herself in that moment. The rest, she'd have to save for later. After that day, Clara kept working. Same lines, same diagnoses, same risks. But now, something had shifted. She no longer wrote in her journal, no more voice messages. And when she spoke, it was in measured tones, as if saving words to not exhaust what she still felt. She slept in her coat, shoes beside the hammock, as if her body had to be ready for everything, except feeling. She went hours not remembering if she'd eaten, and sometimes forgot her own name. But the moment someone called out, "Dr. Alvarez," she came back. She returned, but with discomfort, as if the name no longer fit her body, as if she no longer responded to what she once dreamed. The badge hanging from her neck started to weigh. At first, she'd flip it around before sleeping. Then she began forgetting it in drawers, tables, bathrooms. But the moment someone yelled, "Dr. Alvarez, emergency," she went, because even when she no longer recognized herself, she still knew how to care for others, even if she no longer knew how to care for herself. It had been raining for 3 days. Clara's clothes wouldn't dry anymore. The lights flickered. The generator wavered. The water ran murky. The lines had shrunk. Not from improvement, but because many could no longer make it there. A baby she had helped deliver weeks ago returned with high fever and hollow eyes. She tried, did everything right, but it wasn't enough. She stayed with the mother until the end, then sat on the storage room floor between boxes of gauze and expired bandages. The world in there smelled like disinfectant. The one inside her smelled like emptiness. Clara left her coat in the corner, opened her backpack, and for the first time took out her passport, flipped through it slowly, like touching something sacred or forgotten. She thought about the flight back, about packing in 30 minutes, about the bed she hadn't slept in for months, about a silence that maybe, on the other side, would hurt less. If I leave now, no one will blame me, she thought. Maybe no one will even notice. The name Alvarez was still on the badge, but it was a borrowed last name, like an old address, a house she no longer lived in. She placed the passport back in the backpack, laid in the hammock, and for the first time, wished not to wake up there the next day. Not out of surrender, but exhaustion. Would she be able to go on? Was there anything still holding her when everything inside was ready to let go? Let's find out. But first, if this story is making sense to you, if it resonated with you in any way, subscribe to the channel so we can keep telling stories like this. And before we continue, leave your like. Thank you for your support. It was almost dawn when someone knocked on the dorm door. Clara thought of not answering. She was exhausted, her bags half open, passport buried deep in her backpack. The decision to leave had been silent. No one knew. She just wanted to disappear slowly, without goodbyes. But the knocking persisted. Outside, a woman soaked in rain held her belly with both hands. Strong contractions. Wide, frightened eyes. It was the same patient Clara had seen months earlier for prenatal care. She recognized her instantly. No time to think. Clara called for help, warm towels, boiled water. The generator was unstable. The baby was turned. And for a moment, Clara thought it wouldn't be in time. But it was. The child was born amid screams, silence, and trembling hands. Cried faintly, then stronger. And when placed on the mother's chest, Clara felt a warmth rise through her spine, as if something forgotten had lit up again. The mother was crying. She looked at Clara with teary eyes and whispered, "I want to name her Clarita Alvarez, so she has the strength of the doctor who saved us both." Clara froze inside. The name. That word stuck on the badge that no longer fit her. She smiled sweetly, simply nodded. But deep down, she knew. She could no longer carry that name, nor run from the woman she had become. The next morning, she opened the window for the first time in days, smelled the damp earth, and she knew. She was staying. Clara didn't leave. That morning she took a calm shower, put on clean clothes, lit a new candle, and for the first time in weeks, made coffee just for herself, with thyme, with aroma, with flavor. In her room, she reorganized her space, folded her clothes, hung colorful fabrics on the wall, took the coat off the hook, and stored her backpack. In the late afternoon, she grabbed the badge forgotten in the drawer, sat before the cracked mirror, and stared at the old name. Alvarez. It was a beautiful sound, but it was no longer hers. With a dark pen, she crossed the last name out, then wrote in small, round letters, Dr. Clara. She no longer needed to carry a name that didn't name her. She didn't need to return whole to anyone. She was already here, returning to herself. The day was clear, the sky unhurried. Outside the clinic, Clarita played with other children, chasing a dry leaf dancing in the wind. The mother waved from afar, a discreet smile on her face. Clara returned the gesture. Small, but steady. It wasn't joy. It was something deeper. It was peace. She thought about everything that had brought her here. The old dream of helping those few saw. Med school, the shifts, the packed bags, the love she thought would follow her through it all. And later, the silence, the rupture, the name that stopped being hers. For a long time, she tried to understand. What was missing? What broke? What had been a promise? And what had only been fear? But now she felt she no longer needed answers. Not from him. Not from the past. Not even from herself. Some pains don't need explanations. They simply fade. In the hallway, the new badge swayed on her neck, lighter than ever. Dr. Clara, just like that. And for the first time, complete. She took a deep breath, walked toward the door, her feet grounded, and the silence within her was no longer empty. It was home.